Sure.
So, hello everyone. Nice to meet you again at the Challenge 18 webinar. And today we have here a very special guest, Robert. And yes, I'll tell you a little about Robert. I got to know him through Eco Civilization. And I ever since I'm fascinated from the way he thinks, So just let me tell you briefly about him. Like after an intensive career in engineering, this is his background. He started writing a book in 2011 about alternative ideas and models for a new world. So this is not about the SDGs. This is about alternative ideas, he is also active in so many movements that this is wow, like an eye opener. Like he's active in movements that the future. Later he will tell us the names of, because there's so many. Like I know Eco Civilization, Elegant Earth, Kodu, Gaianet, so many. And he also has a radio, like Future Now Radio, that he's hosting, and some short films, and on and on. So I'll just stop here because he's like really an overwhelming personality, and I'll let him share his amazing ideas that like I see it as the next thing for those in the mindset already for that to speak the new language. A new language, this is what we need, a new language, because this is exactly how we bring the change. And the more people will start these memes, then the world definitely will become a better place. So Robert, the stage is yours after such a long introduction. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon, for having me and your introduction, and you're very kind, and also thank you for doing your work. It's an important part of it. We all bring a little bit of special, I hope, towards it, but we all need each other, of course, to sort of make something out of this big puzzle. And thanks everyone who's joining today. Svetlana and Muftu, thanks for being here. Yeah, let me flow into the presentation. I will share the screen if that goes okay, and just give me a sort of thumbs up if you can see it okay. Or just say yes, that's also okay.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so I'm here to and thrilled to take you through the story of the Regenerative Development Goals. And basically, the door opener is the superordinate regenerative goal. And we're talking about the goals that we want to achieve in 2050. So this is something that is happening to after the Sustainable Development Goals. It's sort of an evolving process, I sense into it. I think the Sustainable Development Goals are wonderful. They started something that gave us a picture about what we want to achieve together, and also how we can discuss solutions. However, we want to take it further and be very bold. And why are we doing this? Well, we're feeling it's not only our planet that is on fire and heating up and stuff like the climate crisis, but also our systems, our economic and governance systems. They are outdated and they are degenerative at the least. So, and we feel specifically after the COVID-19 period of 3 years, this would be a very good time to open up to these new ideas. And like it says here, when we change the conversation, we can change the future. So, but starting on a positive note, and this is for the people who actually don't know the Sustainable Development Goals. United Nations came up with them. I think the process started already 20 years ago, but to make a long story short, in 2015, they sort of launched it. on a big scale, and 17 goals are there to sort of improve quality of life, to eliminate poverty, and to retrieve clean water and sanitation, and so on. So if you don't know it, please take a look at the United Nations websites to get more information about it. And if you guys have any questions, or please interrupt me, that will be fine. If something is to be said. I want to take you through a couple of different lenses. So this is one lens, how the United Nations sees the world, right? Like with all sectors or areas in sort of silos. They are in sort of compartments. But basically, this is the lens through the 12th sector wheel of society. It's based and inspired on Barbara Max Hubbard's wheel of co-creation. You can roughly divide society into 13 different areas. You can see some of them, I will mention them: learning and education, justice, sovereignty and governance, economics, arts, technology, media, and so on. And of course, in the center, we have love and sexuality, because that's really sort of, that's something that's deep within every being. It's very present, and we all want to be loved and feel loved, and also experience a good life. So what you see here is basically a lens that shows that all these different sectors are in silos. And what we want to achieve is come to a sort of new paradigm model where we have feedback loops. So in this way, with the silos, you can come up with solutions in a sector like education. You want to improve it, or you can come up with a brilliant idea that's within the technology sector. But these sectors are interlinked with each other. So if you come up with an idea or something, or a solution, it has an effect on the other sectors, and we want to make it visible how that might work. So the feedback loops, like I just said, I think we have now the wisdom and the technology to sort of bring in these feedback loops. So when we change something in a sector, we can very fast see the effects on the other sectors, and then we can interact on it. So this was the approach before COVID-19. The Sustainable Development Goals, pretty flat, also hierarchical, and we want to bring it sort of to a perspective. How sustainable exactly are these goals? And you can see here, if we're talking about specifically 3 goals that I want to highlight. Goal 8, that's decent work and economic growth. It's a bit flawed, because there are, and we experienced this with the COVID-19, only 30% of all the jobs are essential jobs, and 70% are actually non-essential jobs. So meaning we only needed 30% of the people doing the crucial work to keep things going, right? Like the supply chains and healthcare and so on. And the other 70%, they are sort of pre-made jobs just to have activity, economic activity, to keep us all busy. But basically, we don't really need them. I'm not saying that the people are, not important. I'm talking about the jobs here. That's 2 different things. You can see in goal number 9, industry, innovation, infrastructure, we see the global supply chains breaking down already. That's happening. I will come back to it later. And goal number 17 is very crucial, because it's time to organize and create partnerships, because we cannot do this in compartments or silos. We have to do this together. So that means transcend our border thinking or thinking in barriers. So yeah, what do we want to do? Let's just start calling these Sustainable Development Goals regenerative development goals as the next steps. The Sustainable Development Goals are aiming at 2030, and the regenerative development goals are aiming at 2050. Now that's a long jump, but that's a jump we want to make by meeting everyone's basic needs. Every person on this planet, we can meet everyone's basic needs. The thing is, how can we do it? Because it is possible. A little bit about what is regenerative. Regenerative design is a way of designing a building, a village, or a system where in principle and practice you get more out of it than you actually put in. This is opposite of the degenerative design we currently have, our systems. And it's also different to sustainable and generative design, because that's sort of keeping things in a sort of status quo in balance. But we want to go further and bring in this regenerative element, because that's nature also about, that we improve things as we go along the way. So the superordinate goal, it's a moonshot, back in, I think it was the end of the 60s, we had this moonshot, and the United States, they have this big enterprise putting a few men on the moon, and they all went for it. The technology was maybe not perfect, it was just about ready, but they focused on it and they did it. That's something we also want to achieve with the superordinate goal, to bring everybody food, water, shelter, healthcare, clothing, sanitation, and safety. So, yeah, how do we get around it? I mean, building on the United Nations SDGs would be a great step. And now we see everyone or most of people working in separate sectors. And this was the approach before COVID-19. To make the jump now after, and we just update our approach, and we bring in life-affirming criteria to implement these regenerative solutions in each of these 12 sectors, but through a holistic lens. That means zooming out and to acknowledge and have more understanding how these sectors affect each other. So basically, you can see the two dominant sectors we have now, right? Governance and economics. They weigh heavily on the other sectors. So if something changes there, we feel it in all the other sectors. So, and we're talking about getting to the root causes. Now you see a lot of fighting of symptoms, because if we do not get to the root causes, the problems keep coming back over and over again. And basically, they will never go away. They can even get worse. Getting to the systemic root causes will already be a huge step. And I think Sharon already mentioned Eco-Civilization and Cody are two of the active groups I'm in. There's a reason for it why I'm in so many different platforms and groups, because we all bring something of this puzzle together. And I just try to be, a bit up to date about all the things evolving in every sector, to have a bit more understanding. So we're talking about zooming out a higher holon, and I think it's important to have more understanding about this holistic point of view and how things are related and connected with each other. You can even jump further if you're talking about economy and governance. You can talk about self-governance, and you can talk about an open access economy where we give access to resources. Instead of earning money to buy stuff, we grant access to resources and create a more balanced system. Well, there's some nice quotes here. You can read them back if you want. I think creating a regenerative socioeconomic model is very important, not only for us here in this era, but also for future generations, like the 7 generations to come. And lots of ideas are already old, and now we're getting ready for it. So this is what's next. We're jumping from the SDGs to the RDGs by 2050. We created a bunch of transition tactics to sort of visualize this. And we want to go from fighting symptoms, like I just mentioned, towards addressing root causes. So basically, that means that this is the lens of the 3 pillars of activism. I think it's also important to explain it very briefly. You can see the top, the green pillar, where you have the action groups, the holding actions. the protest groups like Black Lives Matter and Fighters for Future and Extinction Rebellion. You have the shifts in consciousness pillar, where people bring in great ideas and concepts, solutions, and you have the yellow pillar with new systems, where groups actually are building new tools. And we can see that what's happening now, that a lot of groups are protesting, but they're not offering a solution or a new idea for the solution, and they're not offering the tool to implement the solution. And this is where sort of we want to snowball effect it, to let these three pillars work in symbiosis with each other. So whenever you protest for something, and if you're against something, also offer the solution and also implement and bring the tool to sort of make this solution work. So that's basically an important part of the three pillars of activism. We have over 60 different regenerative development goals, but we created the top 10 out of them. I will mention them briefly. The first one is to meet everyone's basic needs by implementing universal basic income or universal basic services. Bring in a 21-hour work week and job sharing of essential work. Create a mutual aid network. Create safe communities free of racism. Global citizenship and a world passport. Eliminate hunger, of course. Water is life. Take care of our water resources. Universal health care is also very important for everyone to be taken care of for their well-being. And homelessness, also important one. And the refugee crisis. So, and basically, like just mentioned, we have all the technology to self-governance. We can come up with all kinds of solutions, and with the help of not only blockchain technology, but also artificial intelligence, we can sort of get advice what the best solutions are, so we as humans can decide what works well for everyone. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the regenerative development goals. I hope that was clear for you, and I'm happy to take some questions from you if you have them. You can see here, we connected them, all these different IDGs, we connected them to the three pillars, so you can see if something is demanded, what it needs for a shift in consciousness, and which new system can be implemented. So that was a very rough ride, but very fast, and I will stop sharing the screen.
Wow, Robert, this was amazing. Yeah, so yeah, everyone, please feel free to open your camera. Uri and Muftu, I don't see him here. Yeah, this is really, honestly, Robert, it's an eye-opener. It's amazing, and it's overwhelming. Honestly, I mean, unless you take us through a journey, like future imagery, like really tell us, okay, how do you stop, reset, go? Like, what is it that you want us to see in 2050? How it's gonna be like? It's the challenge is to see it within our own eyes, because this is so much to digest. So maybe if you could take us starting from 2050 back to now, just to have a better understanding of how what's your vision for the world.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. It is overwhelming, and I think it starts
in a good way, because this
I'm happy. Yeah, I think because I'm not sure if I can backtrack it, but I will free flow into it. I'm very intuitive, so let's see what happens. But there already are a lot of signs that our current systems they are degenerative. And it's a big jump sort of to have a grasp of understanding that unless we alter those systems, and I'm not talking about systems, it's also about our inner economy, right? It's also about how we sort of relate to our environment. How attached are we to our addictions? Can we let go of them? There's a lot of stuff there. So it's also talking about living in new regenerative ways. But for me, it's more about having the consciousness that this is something that doesn't make sense, this path to continue. And without trying to say that something is really good or bad, because we try to be as neutral as possible. So you can have judgment about a lot of things, but we are where we are now, and how can we sort of make the best of it, living in regenerative ways, taking nature as an example. So for me, it's there's lots of stuff there on an educational level, but I also acknowledge that every sector, like I just shown, is equally important. No technology will not save the day, nor education on its own, nor economy or governance. It's the whole shebang. And that's maybe for me, it's more gaining the consciousness that everything is sort of interacting with each other, that we can learn from the processes, and we can have hopefully oversee if we want to bring in a solution, let's do it or try to do it in a holistic way. And it starts with our own perceiving of how we see the world. It's how attached are we to our nationalities and your culture. And I truly believe that all these different cultures and countries are beautiful. The diversity is key, but there is also a beautiful planet. So I just trying to feel into the fact, how can we make this sort of visible and understandable for people, so it's not overwhelming in a good way, but we can take these steps. And RDGs are some steps that we could do already right now, because we have the tools. It's only sort of we have these boundaries, these restrictions, right? Either economically or on the governance level or other levels. So that's my feedback. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I mean, but still, again, if I knew nothing even about the SDGs, like I would need to picture it in my own imagination. This is how our consciousness also works. Like some people say it takes like 60% work on our consciousness and 60% on changing our habits. Well, how come? Because it's more than, because it's complicated. So it's like, so it really takes more than our 100%, like to bring the change. To let go of our old ideologies, that try to anchor, and this is like sustainability in a way. It's like maybe avoiding or like fearing the change, like that everything is dynamic, like ecosystems, everything is regenerative, and this is how it should be. Like there is an abundance, okay, and yet our job is to make sure there will be also but I tell you, I'm very hopeful, because on the one hand we talk here, we are not fast enough, we are not responsive enough, on the personal level, and also as corporates and governments. But just look, like it's in a lifetime, just in 20 years, since we just got to know what is an electric car, that now there are so many electric cars everywhere. So it really depends in how we see it, like the more we zoom out, the more we understand that we actually, it's a natural process, it's happening. And that's why I'm so hopeful, Svetlana, because even though like it feels that it is very slow, and the climate change is gonna destroy us, we are doing, like I can tell you that I was just now in another event, and the ESRS, which is the report that European corporates are agreed, like 50,000 companies agreed to report, you know, for the next 2-3 years. Like so far, it has been like globally, like about 10,000 companies that actually reported for ESG, you know, for CSR, corporate social responsibility, you know, like for how their activity is actually affecting the environment and society. So there is a big change. It's just for us to keep on and spreading our message of hope and this new language, you know, it's a new language. Like when you say RDGs, okay, it's like it's becoming a meme. Like the more people you talk to, you know, the more it becomes familiar, and it spreads the idea that yes, we can actually mind shift, elevate consciously. You know, it's sometimes, yes, it's complicated, but sometimes it's so simple. You know, I was thinking, sometimes people ask me if I'm vegan because I do challenge eating. So I say, okay, between Monday to Thursday, I'm vegan. Why not? Why not? Okay, so I'm not a saint, okay, but I'm doing my best, and this is the change in perspective. You know, looking at these. Same with not using single-use plastic. You know, we are doing our best. We are really doing our best. It's really about in an ecosystem. You know, like the tallest trees are like the leaders. You know, it's not about competing and against each other. It's actually providing everyone around them with whatever it takes for them to flourish and nurture, you know, the ecosystem. This is how it is, and I see leaders as the tallest trees in the ecosystem, and this is how it can best happen. Like, see our leaders, like could be like political leaders, and could be like corporate leaders, could be each and every one of us, like Svetlana, just being a mother. You are a leader. That's how it is. Yeah, but maybe you, Svetlana, you have a question to Robert, because yeah, I'm more familiar with.
Okay, you know that you have told so much information that I have even lost the thread. Okay, so first of all, Robert, you are a great person, and thanks for sharing. And in fact, you make a great difference, not just for your community, for your country, but for the whole world. And, you know, too much information. And to be honest, this information is quite new to me, because my job is teaching, yeah, and I'm just developing in this kind of sphere. But of course, we should live and learn. And I will take a lot on board personally for myself. And I just can't imagine how big your team is, yeah, because it's impossible just for some people to do this great job, yeah, as there should be people who are professional, yeah, in this or in that sphere, who can provide you with information, yeah, who are good at doing different activities. So I suppose that your team is really great, yeah, and big one. Am I right?
Well, I can reflect on it now if you want, because and I love it. Thanks, Svetlana, for mentioning, because the team is actually all of us. And you saw these 3 pillars of activism, because I forgot to mention the name, like holding actions, the protest groups, raising consciousness with all the new ideas and new systems, building new tools. All around the world, there are at least somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million active groups, right? And they're all working on something, on a problem, on a solution, in each of these sectors. It's spread all over. And I see this as the team, to be honest. So This is already, and sometimes I'm a bit careful referring to it like critical mass. You only need 3 to 5% of a larger group to sort of let change happen, and then the rest will follow. It's more, for me, it's more about the collective wisdom that we have. We have all these solutions already. And yes, the team names are different, the group names, the projects are different. That's all fine. But they're all specifically focusing on something where their passion is and where their energy is. And that makes them happy. And I applaud it. It's really wonderful. How to weave all these different solutions and groups and projects a bit like together, and not saying, oh, everybody needs to be the same. No, it's great that everybody is different and doing this specific, working on their piece. But it also sort of weaving in this mycelium network, like in the forest, seeing where the connections are and how can we support each other. So that's basically, if you refer to the team, yes, the wisdom is immense, and it's all there. We have all the solutions, but it wants to be born, and I think that's the process that's happening now.
Yeah, thank you.
And sorry, it's over. I know it's overwhelming. Normally, I need at least 1.5 hours for a presentation like this. So maybe I can sort of reorder it a bit. Yeah.
No, I have got the idea and the gist what is sustainable development, and I have understood those 3 pillars which are interconnected and are equally important. But just I would like to know your personal opinion. What do you think as for the sustainable goals? Personally, you, what do you think? What is one of the most important? Of course, you may answer that they are all important and rather essential for people nowadays, but just taking into account your preferences.
I have an easy answer. For me, it's SDG 17, partnerships for the goals. Because if we don't partner up with each other, we can focus on these different goals like another 100, 200 years, we won't solve it. And that's because it doesn't get to the root causes. We keep on fighting symptoms. So for me, it feels and it makes sense to focus on these partnerships for the goals. And that can bring us to the next phase, to all the other SDGs. But thanks for asking.
Yeah, partnership is really great. And I like to say that sharing is caring,
Yeah.
If we share, we take a lot for ourselves, and of course we provide other people with some kind of information, support, encouragement, and so on. Thank you.
Totally, you're welcome.
I don't know if Uri is listening, because he also has to say much in the topic, but Uri.
I'm listening. I'm sorry, well, it's just dinner time, so I don't want to
I'd like you
get you too hungry.
Yeah, but I want you to add a few words, for before we.
And I came in late, so I'm sorry about that. But I saw part of it, and I think we know through several. We have common people we know, like Nawat, Ingemet. I think we have several connections. I think I like this idea of putting regeneration into the SDGs. I went a little bit forward with that and moved to RCA, which is regenerative collective action, because I have a difficulty with the 2 other words, development and goals. And development, because of it is carrying the whole paradigm of verticality, of development as a linear line. And of course, development doesn't have to be a linear line. And a lot of people speak about spirals and so on, but it is still in the collective story connected with some people are not developed and some people are developed, and you should become more like the developed. So there is a sort of hierarchy there. And goals, because it's future oriented, it's not in the present, it's not in the now. Goal is always there, and it's about the now, what's happening now. So that's why the regenerative collective action. And I made this wheel, this is my SDGs with the permaculture. You might know the permaculture principles, which is a regenerative design methodology. So you have the regenerative, the SDGs around as a circle, and then the principles of permaculture. And I also have a version of that, which is a game that.
Uri, we have less than 1 minute, so maybe I'll close this recorded session. But I love it. It's beautiful, and see how things complement each other.
But I just want to share this thing, because I think how to make it playful, how to make it move, how to make it dynamic, you know, and how to make it easy that a child of 6 years old can engage with it. So I think it's great. Like, let's make this regeneration, but let's make it work for everyone.
Amazing.
In the language for everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Yuri.
Amazing. Like, thank you, both of you, and thanks, Svetlana. This was an amazing session.